recited in front of you is Surah 26, the 88th and the 89th ayah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the people who will enter the heaven, will enter Jannah. And He says, this will be a day when there will be no protection for anyone. No wealth, no children, nothing's going to save that person. The only ones who will make it in are the ones who have the Qalb Salim. The Qalb Salim is something that has been discussed at length by scholars, trying to understand what it is that creates this peaceful enough heart that can be allowed to enter the heavens. Interestingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say the ones that He is pleased with. He says the ones who are pleased with everything. Those are the ones who can enter. And we've heard lots of hadith when we're told about how the soul leaves the body. And it can only leave when there is no attachment with the world. The soul can only leave when there is gentle peacefulness within itself. And then the angel of death very easily can take that out. So the person who enters heaven is the one who himself is at peace. This word peace, inshallah, we'll talk about it and try to understand it. But this whole concept of heart, just for a minute, let's talk about it, because the heart, medically speaking, is not the part of the body that thinks. It's the part of the body that is actually very important for the functioning of the body. If the heart doesn't work well, the rest of the body will eventually shut down. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about that thing that controls a person's thinking and functioning, He's saying heart, but He's not talking about this particular heart that, medically speaking, we refer to. But the peaceful heart is a heart that controls the rest of the human being. It's a philosophical concept, inshallah, we'll try to understand it. But it's the part of the body that is given importance because the rest of the body can function more smoothly. And the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's alluded to this, the heart, where he says, beware that there's a piece of flesh in the body, that if it becomes good and reformed, then the whole body becomes good. But if it gets spoiled, the whole body gets spoiled. And that, he says, is the heart. And when he talks about that, he talks about how this is the place. The heart is a part of the soul that all the desires and the emotions and the passions and every feeling of the human being sort of rests. That's why when we're feeling very upset about something, we say, I feel it in my heart. There is a choking sensation. And even though it's the mind that does the thinking, the feeling is here. Same thing when we're feeling happy, it's the heart that pounds. It's the heart that gives us that feeling of euphoria. So the reference is to this part of the body that reacts, even though the thought process is what causes that reaction. So he talks about this place, and he's explained that it's like the king of the body. And this king of the body has the limbs that are its soldiers. The king says what to do, the soldiers act. So the king is actually in the heart, and the soldiers are acting with their bodies. And it's interesting because if the king is corrupt, as we've seen in history time and again, and still continue to see, if the king is corrupt, naturally his soldiers will be sent out to do something horrible. And many a time in history we've seen of kings making colossal mistakes and creating mistakes and bloodshed and hurt and deceiving the world and plotting and revenge, these terrible things, and the repercussions are felt even now. But here we are, subhanAllah, the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that each of them, when death came to them, it was in a state of peacefulness. So much so that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is invited to the heavens calling him the Nafsul Mutma'inna. That soul that is content. We are the believers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam who look up to the likes of Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha. And one of the names of Bibi Fatima Zahra is Radiya. Who is Radiya? What is this virtue? What is this name? Radiya is one who is content with her Lord. So the Qalb Salim is a person, is the heart of someone who is happy with their Lord. Today we're talking about a personality who says to his Lord, "Oh my Lord, you are exactly the way you should be. You are a perfect God." Most of us are arguing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, "Why? Why did you make this incumbent upon me? Why don't you understand how hard this is for me? Why do you make these terrible things happen to me? Why can't you make it different?" We fight with fate, we fight with his decree. But the true believer says, "Allah, you know best. In your infinite wisdom, you have chosen to test me. In your infinite wisdom, you have chosen to give me." Remember, tests are not only that when Allah takes away, but there's a test when He gives as well. And we have seen so many who have too much and how corrupt they get. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite wisdom understands when He gives, whether it's in wealth, whether it's in health, whether it's in status, in children, and that person who is happy with his decree will be the one who says, like Imam Ali alayhi salam, "Oh Allah, you are exactly the way you should be. Now make me the way you want me to be." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers in the Holy Quran, that they are the ones who are pliant in His hand, like Play-Doh, like plasticine, and soft clay, that they allow Allah to do whatever He feels to them. And when they become soft and malleable, He makes them bow, and He creates situations where the world bows for them. SubhanAllah, it's a beautiful concept. When we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He makes the entire world submit to us. As we see in the case of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who gives his head for Islam, Allah gives him billions and billions of heads that are ready to give their lives for His love. SubhanAllah. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the Qalb Salim. And when we look at this virtue of Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and she was Radiya, the one who was content with her Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her another name. He gave her the laqab, the virtue, the name Mardiya. The one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself is pleased with. Subhanallah. It's one thing to say, "Allah, I'm your friend," but when Allah says, "You are Khalilullah, you are my friend," that is success. That should give us peace. Unfortunately, we have looked at what society tells us is the hallmark of success and the hallmark of peace. When people say, "Oh, I turn my music on, I feel at peace." When I've got everything, when I've eaten a good meal and I have my Porsche and I've got my beautiful house and I've got my very good looking spouse and my children who are all well educated, I am successful. I feel content and at peace. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never talks about peace like this. He always talks about virtues that cause peace. Interestingly, studies find that the people who are happiest are the ones who do volunteer work. They're not the ones who others serve. The people who mark and say this is my level of happiness are the ones who make others happy. No surprise, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said it in His Holy Quran and said to us how righteousness can be found, how peace can be found. All these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demands of us are absolutely difficult to do. Painful. Restrain the anger. Give to that person who might not necessarily be worthy of our giving. Repel evil with goodness. Tolerate, submit, forgive, speak gently. Sabr is a very oft-repeated phrase in the Holy Quran. Sabr is everything. Today we're talking about Imam Ali alayhi salam, and when we remember this great personality, we find that even the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even he had to give this advice to Imam Ali alayhi salam. There's a story that they were walking in Medina together, the Holy Prophet and Imam Ali alayhi salam. They were walking in Medina and they passed the Mosque of Quba, and they passed this beautiful garden, a very lush, very, very beautiful garden. And Imam Ali alayhi salam looked at it and remarked, he said, "What a beautiful garden, Ya Rasulullah." And the Prophet smiled and said, "It's very beautiful, but Ali, your garden in paradise is much better than this one." Imam Ali alayhi salam is quite happy with this and smiles. They move forward, they come across another garden. Again, this is a bigger garden. Imam Ali alayhi salam remarks, "Subhanallah, this is an amazing, beautiful garden." The Prophet replies, "Your garden in paradise is nicer, Ya Ali." Imam Ali is pretty happy about this. They move forward, they come to a third garden. Same thing, Imam Ali alayhi salam says, "Beautiful garden." Prophet says, "This is it. Yours is an even better garden in paradise." But when they reached the seventh garden, history tells us they kept coming back, garden after garden. They reached seven. And Imam Ali alayhi salam is amazed. "My garden is bigger than this as well, Ya Rasulullah. Can't even see the ends of this garden." The Holy Prophet replies, "It is much bigger than you can imagine." And then he looks at him and he begins to cry. And tears start to flow from the Holy Prophet's eyes, and then he begins to sob. Imam Ali alayhi salam is amazed at this expression of emotion in Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he says, "Ya Rasulullah, why are you crying this way?" And the Holy Prophet says, "Because people will be jealous of you, Ya Ali. People have a lot of malice in their hearts for you, Ya Ali." Let's stop for a moment here. The person who has qalb salim doesn't feel jealous, doesn't feel competitive. In fact, is quite confused why everyone's jealous of them. They say, "You have and I have." But the person who is this content, the world will definitely be jealous of that person. And it's a lesson for us also that it is not only good people who enjoy peace. In fact, it is good people who enjoy struggles. And the word enjoy means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses them to elevate themselves. And that elevation will only happen when there is stress in life. So it doesn't matter if you're a prophet, you're an imam, you are a very good person, you will be tested. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. We have created man in the state of distress. There will be difficulty again and again. But the point is that you should feel content and happy. How does this contentment happen? Inshallah, we'll talk about this as the days go on. But how do we reach this point? When our heart has been given good things. When a heart has, even medically speaking, it's having fried food and it's having things that are not healthy, that heart's eventually going to show signs of not working well. Eventually it's going to conk out. So we learned that whatever you put in is what you get out. In computer speak years ago, we had this terminology and we had this acronym GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So when you put good things into your soul, good things will show themselves. When there is enough knowledge put into a human being's heart and soul, their body will comply. In fact, the body will not do anything else but comply. It will not want to move towards the bad because it is internalized what is good. But the world will be jealous. Just because you're on the right doesn't mean it's going to be easy. But remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We've created man from the best of molds. So here we are with the best that there is, and yet we're also created in stress. It is important for us to understand this. When you are going to be on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, there will be difficulty. In fact, when Jibreel was shown the Sirat al-Mustaqim, he exclaimed, he said, it's impossible. This road is full of thorns. It's full of difficulty. Absolutely. Have you seen a doctor become a doctor by not going to school? Have you seen anyone hit university when they didn't go to kindergarten even? Have you seen anyone get a degree without going through the essays and the exams and attending the classes? Even if it's a genius, still working at it, still has to apply himself in some way. You can't reach that level unless you put something of yourself in there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the theory in the Quran and then expects us to put it into action. It's like when you see people who have a medical degree, but when they're not able to practice in certain countries, what happens? They themselves say, well, I'm a doctor, but I haven't practiced in years, so I don't know if I can even call myself a doctor anymore. I'm rusty. So you can have all the theory, you can have a PhD in the Holy Quran. But if you've never been tested, your heart can never reach the status of Qalbi Salim. Because that knowledge is there, it's in the heart, and it has to now be put into use. It's like having a beautiful sports car, a Lamborghini. It's got everything. The works. We keep it parked in the garage. Well, how are we going to know it can go to 200, 300 miles if we've never even pressed on the accelerator? And while we use that nice car, there's also rules. You don't take it to just some any Mickey Mouse place to get its service done. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a Lamborghini in all of us. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. But few of us have put this car into gear. And we're not even giving it gas. And you know what happens to a car that sits too long in the garage. It can be a brand new car. If you don't keep it on every day, I don't know much about cars, but I know one thing, your battery is going to die. You know, you often see this in sitcoms, in the movies, where when someone is really struggling with an issue, you say, I don't know what I should do. Should I take this? Should I do this? Should I do this? Should I do this? And the sage, whether it's a mother or a teacher or someone, will say, do what feels right in your heart. Do what your heart tells you. This is good advice, but it's very dangerous advice. What if the heart is full of incorrect information? If the heart thinks that to get ahead, it means you got to walk all over people, so you're going to make that decision accordingly. We come from a faith, alhamdulillah, that puts a lot of good information into our soul, if we allow it, if we open the Holy Quran, if we listen when we are talked to by those who have learned a little bit. But we insist on saying, I know what to do, and then we try to wing it. Today, as I was coming here, my navigation system, sort of something happened, and then it went on mute. And so I couldn't drive. I had to keep looking at the screen because I didn't have the prompt telling me, turn now, do this now, do this now, don't, you know. And I was talking to my mother, and she was saying, this is an example that one should never rely on anything in this world. When you have enough knowledge and enough idea about what your Lord wants from you, You will not need someone to say, this is right and this is wrong. You will have an internal GPS, a navigation system that will speak. What is that mute button that we keep pressing? The snooze button, really. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends out signals, labbaik, calls out to us, come towards me. And we keep turning away from Him. How are we going to find peace? If we allow other people to live in this heart. For this heart is for God and no one else. And when you fill your heart with God, something amazing happens. It is God who says, love people. Spend time with your neighbors. Give to the poor. So you will still do those things, but you will do it with that commander in your heart, that king of your heart that will tell you what to do. This heart, when it takes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and says, this is enough for me, Allah will create contentment in that heart. So much is about what we tell ourselves. So much. You get a plate of food and you're told this is all you're getting. One spoonful. Now you know that you got to make this last. What do you do yourself? You say, this is going to be enough for me. I'm going to eat it slowly. I'm going to chew it well. I'm going to taste it. And then I'm going to tell myself, this is enough. And an amazing thing happens. You feel full. You feel content. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us, you don't need a lot. You just need the good things in your plate. And then you tell yourself, this is enough. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for me. And whether I live in a palace or in a little hut, drive a Lamborghini or walk to work, I am content. This peace of mind and peace of heart has to happen from within, and within that heart must live good things. We need to put good stuff so we can let out good stuff. And when Imam Ali alayhi salam asks the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, Ya Rasulullah, why are you crying? And the Prophet says, Ali, people will be jealous. People hate you. They have malice in their hearts for you, Ya Ali. And as soon as I leave this world, the other side has everything. It has the weapons. It has the army. It has other evil people who feed off each other. Yet, they're not happy. They're not content. Where is the Qalb Salim if power, status, and numbers is on your side? Where is the Qalb Salim? But interestingly, when we see in Badr, where they were 313, and those guys were way, way much more than that. Where we had just 2 horses and they had hundreds. And yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives victory to the Muslims. And as we see in the in Surah Al-Fath, in the Surah of Victory, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the qalb, that He will put sakina, tranquility into the hearts of the believers and fear in the hearts of the disbelievers. This is why we may be small in numbers even now, yet people are so afraid. And you say, what can we do to you? And yet they are so afraid. It's like that in that time as well, where there were so many, yet they were threatened by a simple man like Ali ibn Abi Talib, who didn't really take anything from anyone, who only gave, who forgave, who was the father of the orphans, who was the merciful one. He was quite a force to contend with on the battlefield. But when people met him on any other day, he was the most gentle of souls. So much so that, as you know, the famous story where he was having trouble breaking bread. It had become so dry, right? And they said, well, you're the one who lifted Khaybar. He said, that was the help of God. And that was when I need that against the disbelievers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates contentment in the heart of the person who wishes to be content. We do our part, He meets us. more than halfway. Take one step, I will take 3 giant leaps towards you. But the effort should be there that I want to be peaceful. I want to be content even if I get nothing. I want to be radiyah so that Allah will say, I am maradiyah. The person that Allah Himself is happy with. And the Prophet says, when I'm gone, Ya Ali, their malice, what was in their qalb will come out now. So scary. It's coming. And Ya Ali, I can see it in my eyes right now, that your white beard will be covered with blood. They're going to kill you, Ya Ali. And it is he who cried first for the martyrdom of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Today we're just doing a sunnah to Rasul. He is the one who cried first, and he said, Ya Ali, they are going to make your life very difficult. And Imam Ali alayhi salam looks at the Holy Prophet and sees him crying, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, are you afraid of my faith? The destruction of my iman? These tears, are you worried for me? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam replies, Ya Ali, without sabr, without patience, and without fortitude and forbearance, you could be destructed. A big sign for us that you can be the best that you are. You can have the biggest knowledge and the ability to do everything correct, but if it's not coupled with patience, the best of the best could not be victorious. So Imam Ali alayhi salam showed us that the qalb salim can happen when you show peacefulness. And the scholars tell us that the salim, the heart that is peaceful, is the heart that is safe. It is safe from evil. It is safe from jealousy. It is safe from hatred. How is it safe? It doesn't allow these things to touch it. How do you not allow it to touch it? You surround yourself with good people, positive people, people who know something, not those who are so worldly that it's all about how do you take this guy treating you like this? You gotta fight back. That kind of friend is the one that on the day of judgment we will see them and say, I wish I had never met you on this earth. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we will bite our hands and we will pull our hair and we will say, I wish I had never met you in my life. So the heart has to be good and it has to be surrounded by goodness. So that only what is best can happen. Only what is worthy will be seen. And the heart that is free of this attack upon it. And the attack will happen because we have created man in distress. And the pure heart, there are many translations of this qalb salim. It is the sound heart. It's working well, right? So it's a healthy heart. It's a heart where good stuff is going in. It is also the pious heart. The heart that has taqwa. It's the muttaqeen heart. Inshallah, in one of these days, we'll talk about the sign of the believer. For if our Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, yes, definitely are the ones with the qalb salim, then we need to see what they have said to us are the qualities of that person who can be honored with the title mu'min. Doesn't come easily. This is a high status. Just like you can't call somebody a doctor unless they have completed medical school or done their PhD. A mu'min, there are signs of a mu'min. Simply belief is just one step. Remember, theory. And now we have to put it into practice. The qalb salim is the contented heart, but it is also the immaculate conscience. This is an interesting one. Have you seen those people who will beat up somebody and then they'll say, I don't feel bad about it. I didn't do anything wrong. They're the people who can yell at somebody or or swear at somebody or do backbiting about somebody and say, I'll say it to his face. I don't care. This shows you that a conscience will only bite you if you have fed good stuff into it. Otherwise, it's a case of garbage in, garbage out. When you have been fed this attitude where if someone beats you, you beat them harder. If someone takes from you, you take more from them. If someone gets in your way, you plot so that they can never get anywhere else. These are the acts of shaitan. For isn't it shaitan who said, I will come at them from the front and from the back and from the sides? That is not a conscience that one can say is an immaculate conscience. No matter what that person is saying, I don't feel bad. Have you seen those people? They can make you burst into tears and they say, your tears mean nothing to me. They don't do anything to me. That is why we are such blessed lovers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, that every majlis makes us shed tears for about the same. Because it softens the heart. When people who are non-Muslims watch and they see grown men sobbing, they say, how? What is this? Even our men, especially our men, are taught to cry deeply, soften the heart, water this dry sand so that something can grow. It is these same men who can be tough on the battlefield, but their hearts are soft and merciful. And we see this description by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of the believers in Surah Fath, when He says that the believers are those who are merciful to each other and very difficult and hard on the disbelievers. So an immaculate conscience has conditions. Just because you feel good doesn't mean you're good and you are right. We need to always refer back to the Holy Quran. It will tell us what is the Qalb Salim. It will tell us what a conscience should be feeling, what should make it cry. And the believers are those whose skin reacts when the mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is made. They are so pliant in His hands that they become putty in His hands. Do with me what you want, O my Lord. And when Allah calls to them, their hair stands up. They get goosebumps when they hear about Him. And they think of Him sleeping and standing and walking. And always thinking that I'm not here for just nothing. There has to be a cause for this existence of mine. The Qalb Salim always asks Allah, Allah, what do you want from me? And do you see goodness in me? This heart is a refuge. It is Medina. It is a place where our holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam found refuge. When he was exiled from his own land and his own family, it was Medina that made him king. He was welcomed as a king. That's what our heart is. And the poets talk about this in many nasheeds, in many languages, that the heart is the refuge of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is where he lives, and this is where God lives. And when there is an immaculate conscience, it bites when we say something that we are worried might hurt someone. This is a level of taqwa. There is the wajib and the haram and the mustahab and all these things, but there is a level of taqwa that the scholars say we must aspire to, where a halal thing is in front of us and we still ask, will this thing help me in any way? Perhaps even if I'm allowed to take this, perhaps it might hurt my Lord in some way, and therefore I will abstain. This is what we saw in the lives of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They abstained. They stayed away from things even though abundance was in front of them. Like Imam Ali alayhi salam on his last night. Food was in front of him, hardly food, milk and salt and water. He sends away the milk. This is the life of an ascetic, a person who abstains even if it is allowed. And this was a quality of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Imam Ali alayhi salam noticed this, and he has said about him in Nahj al-Balagha that the quality of my Prophet was this, that whenever something was brought in front of him, something to eat, something to do, something to say, something to wear, whatever it was, he would look at it and say, will this bring me closer to my Lord or take me away from it? If that could be our litmus test, there's so many things we wouldn't do. Because there's much recreation we're allowed. But remember, recreation, the portion of recreation in our life should be in proportion to the things that must be done also, right? I mean, all work and no play, okay, will make Jack a dull boy. But all play and no work will make Jack unemployed, right? So there has to be proportion. We do things because there is some time for recreation. But there are things that come in front of us. We say, is this going to put me in ghafla, right? You're going to be just completely lost. I'm not going to be thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it happens just in a day of shopping. And you realize, whoa, it's a lot of time, friends, and we had no idea. Or we're at the amusement park, or we're with friends, and we say, we missed the prayer time. What happens? It shows that intoxication also happens when we are doing a halal thing, a perfectly allowed thing. And so always the litmus test is that will this thing bring me closer to my Lord or take me away from it? And we will inshallah speak more about the Qalb Salim and inshallah talk about what we can do to attain it. Here are some ideas just to have something to end with that will inshallah put us on the right track. We talked about feeding into the soul, into this heart, what is good. Because when you put in good things, then inshallah good things will inshallah come out of that. So we're going to look for peace, and I had a list here that I had kind of made, which is going to be a very practical list. It's not very difficult for us to follow, inshallah, but it is something that we can aspire towards and really pay attention to. And then for a few minutes, then we will end with the remembrance of our Imam Ali ibn Talib alayhi salam. Salawat. For it is these are the days where our Imam must be remembered, but we must also remember what he asked of us. So how do we purify this heart? First, the first thing is to aim for it. Never even thought about it. We said, I want to be happy. I want to be content. I want to just have no one bother me. We've understood today that a heart that is content will have to be tested in order to exercise the muscle where it can now function smoothly. That means when someone says bad things to us, cruel things to us, this heart doesn't react. It's a qalb salim. It's a contented heart. You can call names, you can lie, you can say you are this, you are that, you can plot, and this person's unhinged. Nothing happens. Unhinged actually means that they will be unhinged. They will be unfazed. Then nothing will upset them. So first, we have to aspire, and we're going to think about this over the next few days, and what better time to do this in that month of holy Ramadan, where we are abstaining from even those things that are halal for us, as the fourth Imam has said. That even that which was allowed, you have allowed, made us abstain from it, so we can focus on being the best that we can be. Somehow it doesn't really work. We're so full, and even in the mosques, we're doing things that are not very kind to each other. The disunity, the hurtfulness, the brother hurting the fellow brother, the real brother hurting the real brother. So we still have 10 days, and we can still make this work. We aim for a purified heart. The Qalb Salim is a sound heart, It is a pure heart. It is a heart of taqwa. It is a heart that fears Allah. It is a heart that is free of hatred and jealousy and revenge and plotting. So aiming for it puts us on the straight and makes us focus towards it. It's like when you want to lose weight. First you have to decide, I have to lose weight. It doesn't just happen. It needs to be, the mind has to say, I want to do it. The soul is doing it, and then the body follows, inshallah. Then you gotta join the gym. Then you have to stop eating so much. Then you have to choose what you eat. It's a process. It doesn't happen like this. That is why the Holy Quran always says, exercise patience. Patience is something that we have to work towards. But like we've learned in anything, first there needs to be an affirmation and an acknowledgement and a decision. I am going to aim for a contented heart. If there is only this much in my plate, I will say, I will make this enough. If my children are not perfect, my spouse isn't perfect, my home is not what I wanted, my job isn't, I will create a qalb salim. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this has to come from within, by what I put into it. Number 2, we are going to close now all the evil things that come towards us. Because this is supposed to be a preserved heart. And when you close bad thoughts, there are the thoughts that are happening from yourself as well as from those around you. So let's pick and select the people we hang out with. People who bring us down are not going to help us get to a contented soul. And then number 3, keeping daily goals and sticking to them. This means we reflect and we ask ourselves, what is it that makes me so unhappy? I can't solve this, I can't solve that, this person, I don't like how they treat me, these people are against me. Make a list of those things and say, can I change those things? No. They're going to do what they do. I can change my reaction to them. So making a list, keeping a daily goal, and allowing yourself to realize you are in charge of how you feel. Number 3, repenting the evil thoughts when they do come, the actions, and keeping a punishment for oneself. This will allow us, inshallah, to head towards that qalb salim, where you are your own assessor. You assess yourself, you keep track, and you say, where did this terrible thought come from? Why did I react like this? Why did I swear? Why did I bang that thing angrily? Why did I walk away? Why did I slam a door? This will not happen again. It requires maybe keeping a journal. It requires a lot of reflection, thinking and writing. Number 4, giving charity on the past sins of the heart. These Laylatul Qadr nights, as the time to do these tasbih and saying Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu alayh. It's not just saying I ask for forgiveness. I now turn back to you, oh my Lord. I reorient myself back to the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And like we talked about the GPS, this GPS, which sometimes we ignore and we say, I know the road, and we go this way and that way, and then we're lost. What does the GPS do? It doesn't get angry. It says recalculating and brings us back to the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps calling to us. That conscience that makes us feel bad, which this culture says, why are you making yourself feel bad? Take it easy. You know, it's okay, it happens. It's normal to blow up like this. He had it coming. No. The qalb salim says, no, I'm not content with this kind of behavior in myself. And works to fix that. So doing astaghfar and saying and crying and saying, I want to be a better person and I ask for forgiveness and I'm back on the road. By doing dua, saying, Allah, I have planned, well, even when you're trying to lose weight, say, okay, I've joined the gym, Allah, but now you do your part. Make it happen. Same thing with the qalb salim. Ya Allah, I want to be good. I'm making the effort, I've made my list, I'm working on myself, I'm doing astaghfar, I'm sometimes beating myself up about things that I couldn't do properly. Now you give me the barakah to make it happen. You take those giant leaps towards me. And the other, keeping the tongue moist with dhikrullah. Always remembering him. Remembering him then through the tongue, but also through the hands and the rest of the body. Where dhikrullah happens, it's a full body experience. It's a holistic experience. Right now, you could say I'm doing dhikrullah, I'm talking about Allah. But brother over here who's sitting here, inshallah, paying attention to my lecture, is also doing dhikrullah. For listening is a state of dhikr also. Helping the poor, reaching out to help somebody, walking somewhere to get something done for someone is a state of dhikrullah. So the body is, and the tongue is always moist. And wishing well for everyone and being content with one's circumstance. Just saying, Allah, you've given him, alhamdulillah. You can give me too. I'm not going to hate that guy. I'm not going to be jealous of this person. You've given him, you can give me too. And alhamdulillah that you've given to a fellow believer. I'm not going to hate and covet. And the last one, by being conscious of our thought processes all the time and by not giving margin for letting it wander on its own. The qalb al-salim is always in touch with its GPS. So today, as we say our al-wida, our goodbye to Imam Ali alayhi salam, of course Imam is forever in our hearts and will never leave us. But tonight is the night when the home of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the home of Bibi Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha, is in lamentation. The last time they saw this kind of lamenting was their mother when she passed away. And how difficult a time it was. That Hussein is clinging to his mother's chest. And Imam Ali alayhi salam says, my son, please let your mother go. For the angels are saying, we cannot take Fatima if Hussein holds on to her. Those children were suffering and crying and were alone. But it was Imam Ali alayhi salam who was there for them and protected them from the evil and from the plotting and from the cruelty and the hatred. And a parent always worries about their children. Says, what will happen to them when I'm gone? Tonight, the fear that must have been in Imam Ali alayhi salam's heart. I'm leaving these children. Muawiyah, who has always given me so much difficulty, and now is going to be the enemy of Hassan. And Hussein will be cornered in a desert. And my daughter Zainab will be taken to a place where she will be kept as a prisoner, and there will be no menfolk with her. These thoughts are spinning in the head of Imam Ali alayhi salam, knowing that he has to go back to his Lord. But subhanallah, it's a qalb salim. For when he says, Fustu bi rabbil Kaaba, he is saying, I have succeeded. That is a content heart. I have done my part. And he is successful because he has left children who will continue his message. He has left children who will keep the peace that he worked so hard to keep. Whether it's through a peace treaty, whether it's in giving their lives. Whatever they did because Imam Ali alayhi salam set that precedent of patience, of being content no matter what the other side is doing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give this kind of content heart to all of us, but especially to us parents, that we can train our children in such a way that when they're out of our sight, we can be rest assured that they will look at a thing and say, is this going to bring me close to my Lord or take me away from him? This is what we aspire towards. And in these last few moments when Imam Ali alayhi salam is breathing his last, he is holding his children and he's saying to them, fear Allah, fear Allah. He's saying, I advise you of this world. Do not run after it. Do not run after these pleasures. Even if these pleasures run after you, do not take it. Let it go. Do not be part of this. And he said, my children, my advice to you is, do not be sorry about anything which goes from your hands. This is how you get a qalb salim, where you don't fight for things that are in this world. You let it go, and you don't mourn for it. You don't regret it. You do suffer and you say it feels good. You don't say how difficult it was. You say it feels great to let go. And he says, my children, fight against oppression. These are his final words to his family. when there is dhulm happening, do not take side with that oppressor. Be the person who helps the oppressed. And he says that always love each other. Do not abandon doing amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar. And he says that take care of each other and always hold on to the prayer and to visiting the Holy Kaaba and to do jihad with every part of your body. Through your tongue, through your life, through your wealth, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how a person can leave the world saying, indeed, by the Lord of the Kaaba, I am successful. When you have done jihad with your entire being. Subhanallah. And then he says, as he is leaving the world, no bloodshed. Do not fill the streets with blood in my name, my children. This is for us too. Whatever the other side does, whatever the killers are doing, and how many killers out there looking for the lovers of Ali. This is how we will be. We will not let these things make us like them. And just as a last thought, there was a companion named Asbab who was outside crying so much. Imam Hassan goes out to him and says to him, please, we have asked for privacy so the daughters can cry. We have asked that no companions be out here. And he says, just let me see him one more time. Let me see him one more time. And he says, I'm sorry, I cannot. But he keeps coming back and he stays at that door and he's crying day and night. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, there is a lover of mine out there who loves me and he wants to be with me. Let him come inside. Ya Ali, we are also those lovers. We are outside, we are sinners. We do not deserve forgiveness. But you know that we love you. And our love makes you call us to you. Just like this companion, where Imam says, call him inside. And he comes and he hugs Imam and he sleeps on Imam's chest. And he sobs and he sobs and he says, Ya Ali, without you I will be an orphan. I have nobody now. How can I live without you? Imam says, do not worry. Do not worry. He says, I cannot see you in this state, Ya Ali. He says, oh my companion, my dear Asbab, you know I will go to heaven. I'm going to a better place. I'm going content. And the companion says, I know that, but it is the separation that I cannot live with, Ya Ali. How will I live in this world? Give me something. Give me something that I can say that you gave me a hadith and I will remember it forever. And that's when Imam Ali alayhi salam says, this is a good thing you have asked of me. For you will not hear Ali speak again. Now the voice of Ali will be quietened forever. And he says, I will give you a hadith that the Holy Prophet himself gave me when he was breathing his last. And he was saying that, Ya Ali, go out there and get up on that podium. Stand on that, but do not step on the step that I used to step on. Step a lower level. And at that time, tell the people what I want to say to them. And tell them that whoever hurts his parents is away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the parting message that Rasulullah gave to us all. Whoever escapes from his parents is away from the mercy of Allah. Beware, whoever fails to pay someone who has worked for him is away from the mercy of Allah. And he said goodbye to his family. He said goodbye to his children. And he said goodbye to his Hussein, and he kissed his neck. And then he held on to Zainab and said, Zainab, I ask for you to be patient, to tell the world that you are the daughter of Ali, and that you will live on through me by behaving as I did, by being fearless and merciful, by being patient and courageous. Subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create this in all of our hearts and create peace and and tranquility in our hearts. And inshallah, over the next few days, we will talk more and more on how to achieve this qalb salim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Well done, sister. Sister Shayruz will be with us throughout till the end of the holy month of Ramadan, inshallah.